Alright, hey everybody, I'm here with my dad, and we are going to the Tesla Collision Center in Santa Monica to pick up my car. We're here with the latest FSD Beta 11473. So let's see how it does. It's about 26 miles, 56 minutes to get to Santa Monica from here. Let's go.
And this one's on 11.4.7.4.
No, 3.
3.
Yeah. We're starting out in a neighborhood, making a left turn. Much smoother, more cautious driving, as opposed to before. It used to go much quicker. Definitely creates a more comfortable driving experience. You can see there's some parked cars here. They're kind of blocking the lane a little bit, and the cars going around them naturally. Here we have to make a right turn. Nicely done. Even though there was a parked car, it still was able to make the right turn. And here we're going to make a left. Very good. Beautiful day here today in California.
Yep. I love these palm trees here. Not Beverly Hills though.
Okay, there's some dumpsters here in the road.
Yeah.
And a car coming, and it's able to navigate that, get through the gap, and not too close to those dumpsters, which is good. Very early versions would struggle with those kinds of objects.
It would even hit some of them.
Alright, up ahead we have a right turn in half a mile, and then we're headed to the freeway so we can get up to Santa Monica. You can see on the 405 north of the 91 there's a lot of, oh, did you see that? That was pretty good. It started slowing down because it saw the person walking over.
Correct. And he was coming the direction of our path, so I guess that.
And sure enough, right after we passed, they actually went and got in the driver's side door. So I think they did see us. They weren't going to run in front of the car, but you never know. Maybe they didn't see you. So it's good the car is aware of that and able to react. And even before they've gotten to the driver's side door, the car can actually predict, based on where they're walking, that they're actually trying to get into the car.
That's true. I wonder if the person was running as compared to walking.
It probably would have braked harder.
Would have probably braked harder, yeah. Is that a part of the occupancy network that predicts exactly where the person's heading to, or car, or whatever it is, whether it's going to come in our path or not?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the occupancy network or just pedestrian network or what, but it's definitely much more refined now, and it's able to not only spot those situations way ahead of time, but I've also noticed it's much better at not braking for the situations where it doesn't need to brake. So you can have a pedestrian actually get pretty close to you just in the, the normal course of driving. But now more often when it's a situation where you wouldn't brake, it doesn't brake either. Whereas before, now anybody just even walking on the sidewalk could cause it to brake.
Yeah, exactly. Before it was braking way too much. It was being on the conservative side. Now it is the confidence levels up significantly for the car's prediction of the direction of the moving objects, and it's making decisions based on that higher confidence level now. I also like the smoothness. It is a huge improvement in how smooth everything's going. Even when it's an empty road, it doesn't go from 0 to 45 or whatever the speed limit is it has set in like 2 seconds. It just takes its time, just like human beings, smooth acceleration. Very nice.
Yeah, it's definitely much more comfortable of a ride. It's getting pretty usable. It still has some of those robotic tendencies that I hope V12 will help resolve, but it's much more human-like. It's getting to a pretty good place today on 11, even though they've got their heads down focusing on version 12. This version is still doing a pretty good job for me.
Correct. I wonder what would change between all the work they have done up until now and V12, where it's a completely different AI model in terms of like the input. Do you feel they're gonna go like 10 steps back before they get to even this level, or do you feel like it's gonna be a 10 step forward leap and then progress improvement from that point on?
I think there's obviously going to be a lot of leaps forward, or they wouldn't be going with this approach. But the reason they haven't released it yet is obviously that there's new regressions compared to this version. If it was already better than this version, then it would have been released. So there's probably going to be a ton of work they need to do just to make sure that the performance is on par with this version.
So you think it's running in the shadow mode right now?
Yeah, I think so. I think they mentioned that at one of their events.
Yeah. So basically they're comparing wherever the changes, whether the differences are,
right,
and making a judgment on whether the difference is actually better or worse.
Exactly, yeah. I can't wait to try it.
Well, if it's running in the shadow mode, in a way, it's being used in the background. It's just a matter of, them feeling like, okay, now we're hardly finding any differences. If any, they're all better. They're actually solving some of the problems we had with the old method. So hopefully that'd be good.
Yeah, I mean, AI is just taking off. We just watched the OpenAI Dev Day. XAI has their new language model out as well. And, I mean, this version 11 is already getting so good to the point where it can do entire drives without me touching anything, that I just wonder what would the next version actually feel like. Because it's kind of hard to imagine it until you try it. But then once you experience it, it's like, wow, this, it's happened many times when they've made architectural changes. You can really see the new architecture taking you to a place you just couldn't get to before in terms of lifelike driving.
True. The other day, I drove a friend of mine and his wife and my wife, mom, to a party that was approximately about a 1.5 hour drive off of 91. It was all the way in Riverside. And as soon as I picked them, I turned Autopilot on, and when I reached the destination, I turned it off. It was like zero intervention from me, and my friend and his wife, they were like, oh my God, they can actually take off the steering wheel and the accelerator, literally drove better than you drive, which is true. I mean, I get distracted, and all humans do, but there was no distraction, nothing. Followed the speed limits, did the freeway changes from 110 to 91 smoothly, and exits and all of that stuff. It was just incredible experience. So that way, it's not just a matter of it's making less mistakes. It's also the comfort level that it's providing to passengers, not just the driver who knows I'm in control and has a different level of confidence versus a passenger who feels helpless because they don't have any control, they can't brake. So to make them feel comfortable, that in itself is an improvement which doesn't really get listed in the feature improvements they make. When you look at every update, oh, we did this, we did that. It doesn't really say, we'll make your passengers feel a lot more comfortable than they did before. So that's like really a collection of these little things, like, acceleration smooth. They maintain a better gap to a car parked like this. and it does a better job detecting stationary cars. Notice how
Yeah.
it didn't go in that
It
lane.
used to try and jump in that
It
lane.
would jump in that lane. Now it detects way ahead that there are car park on that lane, and it avoids that lane. And then, of course, how it navigates the yellow lights and the red lights, and
Right.
then especially the stop signs and the turns from the stop signs. It used to sometimes like fire like a bullet after stop sign. People were like, whoa, and now it's like a human driver or better. Smooth, very professional
Yeah.
driving experience.
I mean, I definitely just don't have the patience to drive the way it drives. So it definitely creates a more
Yeah.
comfortable experience just because, maybe a human could drive like this if they wanted, but who has the patience to drive that correctly? In the real world, people are stressed, they're late, they have
True.
to get somewhere, they're distracted with something else.
FSD is every highway patrol, traffic police, and DMV's dream come true. Right? Because that's how they want every human being to drive. Stop at the stop sign completely. Respect the traffic lights. Never cross a red light. Maintain your car in the dead center in the lane. Stay within the speed limits.
Yeah, so look at this. Right now it's 52.
Uh-huh.
It just saw the speed limit 40. Now it's lowered the speed to 46.
Exactly. That's
So
what
it
I'm
always listens. When they say lower the speed, it lowers the speed.
saying. Correct.
And yeah, NHTSA has the potential to, they spend millions of dollars on marketing campaigns trying to get people to follow the traffic rules.
Correct.
And no amount of money will ever convince people. There's always new drivers coming in. So there's a constant re-education that needs to happen to get people to follow these rules. With software, you can fix it once.
Correct. I mean, technically, you could literally have QR codes on the roads now instead of signs, right? Because the whole industry is going to focus towards making the road signs and the road markings and everything geared towards self-driving cars, which at some point in time will be all we have. So both the highway safety as well as other departments.
And look at this right in front of us, a Model Y, a Model 3. These are all going to be cars that are running FSD if they're not already.
Correct.
So, if they can get this to driverless reliability with V12, there would literally be, millions of driverless cars overnight. It's 25% of sales in California of new cars are now EVs. And Tesla's a big part of that, obviously. They're even outselling the Toyota RAV4 now.
Yeah.
So this AI technology is really getting in a lot of people's hands.
Well, technically, if you think about it, EV is now replacing ICE, right? Completely. So everybody that's considering a buying decision is looking at all the EVs out there, and
I like this. It's going around because it's quicker.
yeah,
Changing lanes. It's
Yeah.
good about that now. That used to be a complaint I have in the past,
Correct.
that it would get stuck.
Did it do the blinker though?
Yeah, it did.
Oh, okay.
So you're
Sure.
saying EVs replacing ICE?
So EVs are replacing ICE, and I'm buying a second car for your mom, and I was researching. There's nothing out there that even comes close to like half as good as Tesla. So I was like, okay, I'll consider, maybe a Mercedes, maybe a BMW. None of them for the price and the range,
Right.
and then the software on those cars sucks, and the
Yeah.
charging is still a nightmare with Mercedes, as an example.
Right.
So when
Well, they're going to adopt Tesla's connector in a few years.
Yeah, once they do that, at least it will be worth considering. So they should really be paying Tesla a lot of money, because right now, one of the main reasons people are not buying those cars is because they don't have the charging network like Tesla does. But it goes without saying that every car buyer out there right now wants to buy an electrical car because of the fact that it has not only lower cost of use, which is, you don't have to buy $7 a gallon gas, but also it has a lower cost of maintenance, which
Yeah.
adds to the low cost of use.
No oil changes, none of that.
Nothing. it used to be nightmare, like my BMWs and all that.
Yeah.
10,000 miles, 20,000 miles.
Yeah.
And when you go to the dealer,
I know, you gotta call them, make an appointment, and they try and get all this money out of you.
And then they find all the excuses. Oh, Mr. Kazi, your brake pads are rubbing too much on one side. You're gonna have to replace those. And they scare you. Like, of course, if my brake pads are, I don't know, why are they?
Meanwhile, EVs don't even use the brake pads because they have regenerative braking. The brake pads last forever, practically.
That's true. The last Tesla.
Pretty much all you need to change is the tires, air filters, that's it.
Yeah. Last Tesla Model S that I had it for 4 years. And I haven't spent a cent on maintenance.
Wow.
Never took it for anything. I mean, just $0 spent on maintenance. That would have been impossible with the internal combustion engine car. Something would have died. Like, I went on a trip for 2 months. I was on an international trip. At least my battery would have died, Like, even the batteries in this one did. Because I kept it on charge and, it kept the battery charged too. So, those are like, a lot of people overlook those benefits, but it's really a completely different industry. I'm pretty sure automobile engineering is being rewritten too as we speak. All those books talking about carburetors and pistons and all that stuff are being rewritten to talk about the engines, the motors now, and the electrical currents and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to see more people adopting EVs. I think it's just, of course, there's the fuel savings, gas is so expensive, all of that. But then also just on the software side, it's just so far ahead.
Yeah.
They're so much more advanced. Like, I love how with this car, when you have a gas car, first you gotta put the car in park, then you gotta push the off button, then you gotta pick up your key, unbuckle your seatbelt, then get out. And, it's such a complicated process. You're like, okay, did I turn the car off? Is the engine off? Or is the car actually off? The car can be on without the engine being on, then your battery can die. So with this car, you just take off your seatbelt and get out.
Yeah.
You don't even have a key. You take your phone and it just auto locks. It puts it in park automatically. It's just so much simpler. If you're a busy person, it's just so many fewer steps in everything you do daily.
So some of those things, like, car locking itself and all of that, can be easily incorporated in,
they have that, of course.
Yeah, but
you have to have the key fob.
You have to understand the benefits, of when you're stepping out into a gas station. Now you are inhaling the fumes, right? First of all, which is not good for your health. Secondly, you're dealing with technologies where your credit card's not working, it's not swiping properly, right?
Right.
And there's like million germs and bacteria on those keypads.
Smells bad.
So you avoid all of that with Tesla, because you're going to most likely 99% of the time be charging at your home, which is what I do. I have hardly charged this car at any supercharger. And even if I do, it's a much easier experience. Right? Just you plug in, you don't have to give your credit card, you don't punch in anything. It just knows what to do, charges your card, which is on their files, and you're done. And that is not something ICE cars can do, even if they want to, because their fuel is, petroleum, which in itself is a problem, leave alone the fact that it causes contamination of the soil and all of that.
Yeah, that's one of the big misconceptions that people have. The people who sort of want to spread misinformation about EVs, they paint this picture that if you have an EV, you're going to be waiting in line for an hour every day, waiting for the car to charge, when the reality is it's the people who have to get gas who actually have to go out of their way and go somewhere to get fuel.
Yeah.
If you have an EV, you can just charge while you sleep and wake up with a full tank every day.
That's assuming that you either have a home or you have a condo where you can put in a charger, or you have an apartment where you can
But even for me, I lived in an apartment in San Francisco without a garage for many years. And there was a garage nearby with a public charger, and I just charged there. It worked fine. We shared it with everybody.
That's San Francisco. That may not be true the rest of the country. So
But they are more and more
Yeah.
popping up everywhere. A lot of people probably don't know.
Exactly. What I expect, one of the things that I love about EV chargers is they're not environmentally sensitive.
Yeah.
So in other words, securing a building permit or a permission from the city to put an EV charger can be done literally in a couple of days, as compared to a gas station, which goes through extreme environmental review,
Right.
soil testing, and all kinds of stuff, and different agencies involved, WQMDs and all of that. So none of that. You can put in an electrical charger right outside your restaurant, right? If you have even a fast food place, you can put
Right.
EV. So
You're
now
not going to find a gas station at the
Correct.
mall.
Exactly. You're not going to find a gas station outside your restaurant or Walmart or Kmart or whatever you go to. There's no way. There's no way you're going to put a gas station in front of that. And considering the cost of putting these things coming up to be low, all of the apartment buildings that I know of right now that are being built in California are being built with EV chargers in
Right.
their apartment parking all over.
It's a good way to attract renters who are higher income, yeah.
Exactly. I mean,
Plus, you can get a 30% tax credit, and it can actually be a revenue source if you charge people.
Yes. Well, even if you don't charge, as you said, you won't be in business if you're not going to provide that, because you're getting
Right.
you're in the shift from ICE to EVs, and all the younger generation that's already adopting EVs, they're going to look for an apartment where they have an EV charger.
Yeah.
So that's the
That was a
beauty.
huge criteria for me. And when I saw that my apartment had an EV charger in the garage already,
There
I
you
said,
go.
I'll take it.
Yeah,
Because it's just so much of a convenience to be able to charge while you sleep.
correct. By the way, so that because I have an engineering background, people make a big deal about putting up an EV charger, which is 220, right? And maybe 40 amps, 48 amps, maximum. So you can put a 50 amp circuit breaker. In a simple domestic household, most of the units, even apartment units, they have a 100 amp, panel. So which means that if you want to add a 220, a EV charger to your apartment parking spot, it's not a big deal. It's
Right.
And now what they've done is, which I personally like, and I saw that in many apartment buildings, because you're metered separately for your apartment, but you can't be metered separately for your parking spot, right? Because they're not going to run another wire from the meter, behind the meter to your spot. But what they do now is they run a uniform wire, one big backbone, and they put all the EV chargers off of that, and they let you add your credit card to that. So then you don't have to, landlord doesn't have to worry about it, because you're paying directly to the company that's providing power, and it's pretty easy. So it's a small device they add that adds allows you to swipe your credit card and save it, and then you can charge as many times, or you can just put a code in there that you have to put in a code in order for it to be charging your card. So we did that, if you remember, at our office. We put a code on the thing.
Yeah.
So these are very easy things now landlords can do to their apartment buildings, where they can say, hey, or you can tell
Look at this, people pulling in and out of the parking lot, and it
Yeah.
slows down, it handles it well.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people also probably don't realize that you can just use any old outlet. A 220 volt outlet is obviously faster. It can charge in, less than 8 hours, less than the time it takes you to sleep. But even if you just have a 110 volt outlet in the garage, that can charge your car fully in about 24 hours. So if you just come home every day and plug into that slow outlet, it'll charge you up, give you all the mileage you need by the time it's, time to go back to work the next day.
Correct.
So a lot of people imagine you have to install this big charger setup, when the reality is, if you can plug your phone into the outlet, you can plug your car into that outlet too.
Yeah, if and 110 usually is behind a 15 or 20 amp circuit. So at 20 amp, it's about twice the amount of time it would take to charge. So if the 40 amp takes, let's say, 8 hours, 20 amp will take 16 hours. It's simple math. But remember, that's from 0 to 400. right? That's not from your day-to-day drive where you only burned only 50 miles or
Right.
60 miles. So that will be done probably in 2-3 hours, even on a 110 plug. So
Yeah.
your daily drive is not, typically, 400 miles.
That was good. That guy cut in front of us, and it was pretty smooth.
Yeah.
It actually started moving over a little bit.
It came into this lane way too early. Did you observe that? We're still
Well,
it's saying 0.3 miles, make a right. Why is it making a right?
it wants to make a right on Redondo Beach Boulevard instead of Hawthorne.
Oh, it wants to take that ramp.
I don't know why, but
But you can override it, right?
I'm not going to bother overriding it. I'm just going to let it do what it wants to do. If I were just driving myself, then I would probably just go
Yeah.
straight, but since we're making a video, I'll let it do what it wants to do.
Okay. Yeah, there must be a reason. I think there is some construction going on.
So look at this guy, the human driver, where he stopped in the middle of the crosswalk,
I know.
and then look at where the computer stopped. This is basically, why AI is going to be so helpful.
And safer, even for pedestrians.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, there's a mall here. People need to walk. Tons of people pulling out.
It does that speed adjustment when it sees a car crossing,
Mhm.
almost like how you would lift your foot from the accelerator.
Right.
That kind of speed slowdown where you don't feel that it actually slowed down that much, but just enough to go
Right.
ahead and allow the car to cross and things like that.
Yeah, it's very refined. I remember how bad it used to be. It would react way too hard and then speed up again way too slowly.
Correct.
You remember how when somebody used to turn right, it would just slow so much and wait so long before
Correct.
picking up again? It's just so much better at that now. Okay, so now we got to get on the freeway.
Yeah. By the way, I know a lot of people will watch this video. I want to mention that this is by far one of the busiest freeway in the world that I have seen.
Yeah.
Known as 405.
The 405's crazy.
And this is one of the busiest intersection of 405, commonly referred to as South Bay Bend. And the traffic on this freeway.
Hey, look at that BMW iX electric.
Correct. Despite the fact that there are 6-7 lanes, the traffic always is bumper to bumper, and it's not easy even for human drivers to drive on this freeway, leave alone get on a ramp, merge into the crazy traffic of LA.
Yeah, so look, it has to make sure there's no traffic coming. There's a car coming. So it needs to wait for this car, and then now go when it has a chance. The guy behind me is honking.
Yeah. So that's LA. People don't sometimes have patience on because they know it's rare for them to get an opening. So here we go. We're getting on the ramp now. As I was saying, look at the traffic in front of you, bumper to bumper. Everybody traveling at.
There's a Rivian R1T.
And a Rivian in front of us. There's a lot of Rivians in LA.
Yeah.
So it's doing a good job in the lane.
Guy pulling. Oh.
It didn't understand what the.
It braked a little bit because of that
it was
guy.
seeing that tow truck. Yeah, it was trying to understand the tow truck's direction. Okay, perfect lane change, beautiful. Yeah, this is what I was saying, that it's very difficult for even humans to do that. By the way, this is something that I noticed. It does now also slow down to make the lane change better. See how it slowed down to create a gap with the car in front of you, rather than accelerate, which is what it used to do mostly.
Right.
Now it determines what's better for me, to slow down and create a gap for the car in front of me, because the gap for the car behind me was pretty good. And
I mean, even humans have trouble getting across the 405 like that. And it did it with just cameras. And this is on hardware 3.
I know so many people that don't want to drive on this freeway or any freeway in LA just because it's stressful the traffic is bumper to bumper. And California, people drive 80 miles an hour.
And they're all angry.
Yeah.
They're all angry. They're stuck in traffic, so they do crazy things.
Exactly. Nobody wants to be on the freeways, but they have to. And then if you're driving slow, they'll get on your back.
Yeah, those people should get a Tesla. They can just press one button.
It was pretty impressive how it went from farthest lane, went over 6 lanes almost, into the lane, the fast lane, which is 1 lane to the right of the carpool lane. By the way, it can go into carpool lane. Let's see if it makes that judgment or not. I have told it that it's okay to use HOV lanes.
Let's see. Yeah, there, use HOV lanes.
Hey,
so it is getting into the carpool lane.
Figure it out. He's like, yeah, I might as well get in the carpool lane. So perfect.
And so far, I pushed one button to turn it on. That's it.
Yeah, let's.
So it's incredible what the state of the art is.
Yeah.
That you can just press one button.
Yeah.
And now we're on the 405 in the carpool lane.
Correct. And you know, look at the traffic. It's pretty dense. By the way, big improvement on lane change and merging into traffic, no matter how dense it is. Incredible. Like a professional driver. Tremendous level of confidence. Timing perfect. So which tells you that their confidence on how far they are from the objects behind and in front has gone up dramatically. Because sometimes like there's barely, 6-8 feet gap between the cars, and all cars are traveling at 40-50 miles per hour, and it merges between the two.
Yeah.
So that's got to be a high level of confidence that those distances that I'm measuring just purely from vision is accurate.
Yeah, the lane changes and merges are just unbelievable. It blows me away when I'm on the 405 in the carpool lane and it has to get across, like for example, in 8 miles, it's going to have to get on the 10 West. This is an incredibly busy interchange.
Correct.
Back in the day, you would get stressed about, okay, is it going to be able to make it? It's probably not going to be able to change lanes over.
Yeah.
You'd always have to take over to avoid missing the freeway.
Yeah.
Now it does it every time.
Yeah.
I'm not even thinking about whether it'll make it or not. I can tell you confidently, it will actually make it to the 10 West.
That's true.
Across all of traffic.
That's true. I have tremendous amount of confidence in its lane changing and merging and making it to the right lane. And the timing it uses is perfect. It knows exactly when to do that. Doesn't do it too soon, doesn't do it too late. Very nice, significant improvement there. Love that improvement because it makes you feel much better in terms of being in the car and trusting it to do the right thing. Now, leave alone the fact that me as a human, when I was driving, that merge from 405 to 10 was stressful for me.
Yeah.
And now,
it does it for you.
Then there was a stage where I was letting Autopilot do it and FSD do it, and it was stressful for me, and FSD was getting stressed.
Yeah, that's true.
And now it's not stressful for me, and FSD, has no emotions, so it just does it. It's all math for it.
Right.
So here we go. Take one other worry out of your life.
Yeah.
If you cumulatively put all the stress that driving causes, I think we might be adding like 5 years to a human being's life.
Yeah.
Because less stress related to driving.
And, if you're busy, you got so many things on your mind, nothing's worse than when you're thinking about what you have to do, what you're doing for work, whatever, and then on top of that, you have to do the driving to get there, get to your job, do whatever. It's just so much less stressful when you can just focus on your problems that you actually have and not have to worry about making sure you don't hit somebody.
True.
I mean, of course, you still have to verify today, but it takes most of the load off of your shoulder.
It sure does.
This is such a smooth, comfortable ride.
So far, and by the way, you probably know that better than anybody else, but I just wanted to second the fact that now for the past almost 12 months, I don't drive.
Yeah.
It's not like an option for me to think like, let me drive. It comes naturally for me now. I put in an address, hit the FSD button, and enjoy the ride. I had this one day where the car, for like maybe not one day, it was actually 3-4 days, and I think we got 3 strikes, and it took away the FSD for a week almost.
Oh yeah, that was my fault. Sorry.
It was, not only was it frustrating, but here's what happened. 4 out of those 7 days I didn't drive. I decided to work more from home because I was like, who wants to drive? It's like, and then I was thinking about it, saying, oh, look at how used to I am to the car driving by itself. Now I see me driving as an extra chore.
Wow. I didn't know that. And you didn't tell me that yet.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
So these are the things that, how it will change your mind, right?
Yeah.
It's not.
I mean, imagine like this situation, being in traffic on the 405 is like, ugh.
Yeah.
It makes me, on edge. It makes me upset. Right now, I'm perfectly relaxed because it's not, I'm not constantly faced with this task of pushing the brake every time they brake. The car's doing it all for me.
Exactly.
I'm just relaxing, enjoying my conversation with you. I can look around. I can look at you, look at other things in the road rather than just what's in front of me.
Yeah.
Actually improve my awareness.
And the phone distraction, that it doesn't let you check your phone.
Right. Which is an enormous safety benefit.
Yeah. And think about it. If the car is driving...
So look at this. Now it's trying to get over to the 10.
Car's driving
so it's exited
by
the carpool
itself.
lane.
And this is 3 miles before it needs to merge.
Yeah.
Because it knows LA traffic, and it also knows that the carpool lane wouldn't give me another opening for another 1.5 miles.
Right.
So then it would be too difficult to, do the lane switching. How smart. I mean, whoever's engineering this thing is brilliant.
I know. The team is incredible.
Yeah. So they knew exactly.
And look at how many Teslas there are. Tesla Model Y there.
Yeah.
There's like so many Teslas in California. It's ridiculous. And they're all feeding data back to the system. They're like, this guy's probably using Autopilot 2. This guy's probably using Autopilot 2. There's another Model S over there.
Yeah, she's using it. She didn't have it. So, yeah. I mean, they say California is a trendsetter. If you want to see the future, what's going to be in your city 5 to 10 years from now, come to California. This is it. Teslas are going to be all over. And
honestly, I'm not sure how you could survive in LA without a Tesla and Autopilot, being in this kind of traffic every day. I mean, this is like the lowest traffic time. We tried to go when the traffic was low. This is 1 o'clock.
Yeah,
come back in a few hours and it's going to be even worse than this.
Exactly. We picked the lowest traffic time, and still it's pretty dense. Right now we're traveling at 35 miles per hour, which is considered to be a pretty good speed at this junction, which is 405 to 10 intersection.
I like how it got out of the carpool lane, but it didn't get too far over. It's still staying in the left lane, which is quicker.
Correct.
So I like that lane decision it made. Pretty smooth braking. Not uncomfortable.
The other day I was reading about BP deciding to buy EV chargers. I'm wondering whether the big oil companies like Mobil and Chevron and all of those guys, 76, they're going to decide like, oh my God, we're going to miss out on this. We don't want our customers, because, remember they have that convenience store, right? They're making a lot of money on that too. So it's not just them making money by selling. So maybe they will come in and take some of those gas pumps out and replace them with EV stations, and continue driving the consumer to them, and then go shop at their convenience store at the same time.
Every gas station should have an EV charger too.
Multiple EV chargers.
Yeah.
I saw that, by the way, in Cabazon, when I was driving back from Palm Springs the other day.
Yeah, they have them all over. I remember when LA had no superchargers. Look at this now. The place is just covered in superchargers.
All those red ones?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's great. Like, you literally cannot run out of charge here. There's so many chargers.
Yeah.
And, you know, in 5 minutes, they'll give you enough charge to go 100 miles. You can get home.
Well, my car at 90% is 350 miles or so. And
Well, 405 miles total.
total 405 miles. Yeah, exactly. So I don't even drive 400 miles a week.
Right.
So it's, you know, where are the chargers has never been a concern for me. And I just make it a habit. Every time I'm at 50%, I charge it again up to 90%. So I don't wait for it to go down to 10% or whatever.
Right.
And the fact that it charges at night when the rates are lowest, you know, costs me $2-3 per charge every night, because I'm only charging, you know, 40%
Right.
more. It's already charged 50%.
Okay, we got 0.8 miles until the interchange.
10 West is what we're taking. As you can see, there is a bumper-to-bumper traffic. To our right, all these cars are actually going to 10 West, so it's not like they are going to come into our lane. They're staying in that lane. So now it's this car's, FSD's job to find that gap. There you go. Perfect. Just like a human being sneaked in and found that gap. And I was going to stay in this lane because this lane actually goes to 10 West.
And we said we have no doubt it'll make it. It made it.
It made it.
It made it smoothly, comfortably.
Yeah.
We didn't have to worry about a thing.
Yeah, and half a mile to spare. That's a lot of distance at, you know, when you're traveling at 25 miles an hour.
And by the way, nobody else can do this. Waymo won't take you on the freeway. Cruise won't take you on the freeway. Tesla team is super underappreciated for just with cameras, any freeway, it just works. Like, this is really when it gets exciting, when you can actually use it anywhere.
Correct. Original Autopilot was just freeways.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't even want you to use it on surface streets. So Tesla started from here. So this is their, you know, low-hanging fruit per se.
Right. And, I mean, on the highway, it's like really good.
Yeah.
The city streets is where there's more challenges. On the highway, you can just kind of sit back a little.
And remember, those challenges are not from the streets. The challenges are from the other human drivers that will do dumb things, right?
Right.
And or pedestrians that are sometimes unpredictable, you know, what they would do. But because there are no traffic lights and there are no pedestrians on a freeway, so less of that.
All right, it's taking the right fork.
Yeah.
And there we go. Headed on to the 10 West.
Yeah.
It knows which side is west, which side is east, and there we go. Beautiful. That is not easy, but the Tesla team makes it look easy.
Yeah. And here's the ramp on to 10 West. We'll do a 2-lane changes to the left.
And we're taking the Lincoln Boulevard South exit.
So there's a merge on our right, coming in traffic on our right, so it has to keep an eye on that. And then it will do a lane change to the left. Again, predicting the behavior of this car.
Notice how it's slowing down because it's predicting that car might merge.
That car might merge, even though no blinker was being indicated by that car. It's just using
logic
in that sense, exactly. So now
it wants to merge over to the left. It's waiting for an opportunity, and boom. Not challenging. I mean, sorry, not easy to merge onto a LA freeway with people approaching fast. They don't want to let you in. But it found the opportunity and it did it. It makes it look easy. All right, one more lane change. This car's a little bit too slow for it.
So
It's going to get over again.
And we're talking about 2 miles to exit, so it's confident that it will be in the fast lane and still get back to the far right lane in less than 2 miles. So the whole point of like, hey, we got time.
Yeah.
Let me take you back to 75 miles per hour.
Because it's so good at doing those lane changes now, it has the confidence to be able to get over.
Exactly.
And still make it.
Yeah.
This is on assertive mode, by the way, so it tends to be more aggressive in its choices in this mode.
You need to be on assertive mode in California, otherwise, you know, you saw honking for like 2-second delay.
Right. People get upset.
Yeah. So here you can't be on.
So 1.2 miles, it starts moving back over.
Yeah. First lane change. Perfectly done.
There's the sign for Lincoln Boulevard South.
Okay, it's coming up 1 mile.
Down
so
a little.
It's going to slow down a little bit. It's going to find a gap.
It might decide it wants to try and get in front of the truck if it can.
Yeah. Just like me. I don't like to be behind the truck.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. But there's a... Worse than truck, there's this tree cutter. Ah, perfect.
See, before, when it was less confident, it would probably have gotten behind the truck.
Yeah.
And I'd be sitting behind the truck like, oh my God. And I would probably disengage because, you know, why do I want to be going 40 miles an hour?
Correct.
But now it's actually smart enough to know that I don't want to be behind the truck.
Yeah.
Get ahead.
It's only 0.2 miles to exit. Notice how it's smoothly changing.
And it didn't miss the exit just in time it got here.
Oh my God.
Like,
this was
Tesla
good.
team, you know. Good job.
Very good. Honestly.
They make our lives so easy.
No, you have to truly appreciate the
and everyone said it was impossible.
The decision process involved in this at that speed of 70 miles per hour, making these quick decisions and
then look at this, 2 lane changes needed to make a right turn.
No problem.
Yeah, it got over.
Turned red. So even though we're allowed to make a right on red, but it's watching for the traffic coming in the other direction.
Right. It anticipated that the traffic would start coming and didn't go quickly as I probably would have done.
Yeah.
So again, you know, making safer decisions, that can all be programmed, but it defaults to just making safe choices. Okay, now the traffic's clear and it's going to make a right. Next we got a right on Colorado Avenue, and there is the Tesla Service Center and Collision Repair Center. Really good experience with the Tesla Collision Repair. I think they were maybe a little more expensive, but they just, you know, you came in, you dropped the car off, they made it super simple, and message you through the Tesla app. So yeah, I would recommend them. Alright, and the service center should be right up ahead in 0.1 miles.
Right after the traffic light, it's on the right hand side. There you go, I can see this Tesla sign. Incredible.
So it took us all the way from Palos Verdes to Santa Monica. I didn't touch a thing. I pushed one button to turn it on.
It was what, about 55-minute ride?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And we're talking about light traffic, guys. We're not talking about, you know.
So think about this.
Traffic.
Any Tesla bought today can drive you an hour through LA traffic without, you know, you might have to take over if there's something you need to correct, or if you want to drive. But if you don't feel like doing anything, you can just let the car do it.
Yeah.
And this is today. This is before V12.
But now if you're living in, let's say...
look at this. Look at this. This woman's like wandering into the street and the light turned green. Do you see how it was cautious?
Yeah. Okay. All right, we're here. Oh, it's going to get inside? Watch it.
It had a little air thing going that way, but then it decided not to.
Yeah.
Maybe because of that guy walking out or something.
Just park right here, drop off this. So what I was going to say, Omar, is that imagine if you're living in, you know, Albany, or if you're living in, you know, Buffalo, New York, where there's hardly any traffic. This FSD software is going to say, what the heck? You know, I'm not being challenged. This is just too easy. because it's trained on California streets.
Yeah.
I can park right here. This number 7 spot.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody.
Thank you,
Take
guys.
care. You just saw Tesla full self-driving beta drive from Palos Verdes to Santa Monica with 0 interventions and 0 human input of any kind. That's pretty impressive. But what's even more impressive is that after I picked up my car from the Tesla service center, it drove me back from Santa Monica to Palos Verdes, also with 0 interventions and 0 human input of any kind. This shows that the software is not just powerful, it's becoming consistent, it's becoming reliable. It can not just get lucky and do the drive once, it can do the reverse perfectly as well. This is super exciting, and I'm going to end with a time lapse of the drive back with Ashok, the head of the Autopilot team, talking in the background.
Yeah, today I would like to present our work on what we think is going to be the foundation model for autonomy and robotics. This is not just the work of myself. I'm representing a large team of talented engineers in our team. Let's get started. Our team has shipped the full self-driving beta software to everyone who has purchased it in the United States and Canada. There's roughly 400,000 vehicles, and today they have driven up to 50 million miles on FSD Beta. I think the cool thing about this is that this is a scalable self-driving stack that you can take the car anywhere to the US, turn it on, put it in a destination, and the car would attempt to navigate to the destination, handling all of the like turns, stopping at traffic lights, interacting with other objects. And all of this is driven primarily by the 8 cameras that are on the car that are giving a full 360-degree coverage around the car. The reason that works well is because our stack is based on really modern machine learning based stack where a lot of the components of the self-driving stack are just folded into neural networks. And I would say this is different than the more traditional approach to self-driving, which uses a localization, maps, a lot of radar, ultrasonics, etc., to fuse together. Instead, this is primarily being driven by just cameras. And if you have a test yourself, you can obviously buy the car and experience it. Otherwise, you just have to take my word or look at some videos, but it works quite well. And we are in the process of making it even better. I shared about these occupancy networks that are one of the more important pieces in our stack. I would consider this as one of the foundational model tasks because this is very general. This is a very general task and doesn't have any specific ontology or like at least robust to ontology errors. It really just predicts whether some voxel in 3D space is occupied or not, and the probability of that. And can hence represent arbitrary scenes. There is no labeling or ontology design required, and it's quite general and can apply like anywhere. And in addition to just the occupancy, we also predict the flow of voxels in the future that kind of like gives arbitrary motion as well, and everything runs in real time. This is quite similar to NERF in general, but unlike NERF or like say multi-view reconstruction, which is usually done for a single scene, we predict the occupancy based on the 8 cameras in real time. So the videos stream in, and then we just predict for all of space around the car on whether this voxel is occupied or not, as opposed to like doing this offline post-processing step. So architecture looks with a lot of, it looks very complicated, but then it's actually not that complicated in the end. Videos from multiple cameras stream in, and you can choose whatever backbone you want, RegNets, whatever the latest bits, you can throw anything in there. And then everything comes together in a large transformer block that does sort of a spatial attention to build up features, and also does temporal attention with some like geometry thrown in there to form some features that can then be upsampled into the actual predictions. It's quite straightforward, even though the diagram looks a bit complicated. And the same architecture and the modeling can be used not just for occupancy, but for other tasks that are needed for driving. Obviously, lanes and roads are very important for driving tasks, but I'd say lanes are quite obnoxious to predict. The reason is first of all, lanes are high dimensional objects, unlike it's definitely not like 1D or 2D, like, high dimensional. And then they have like a graph structure. Like objects, for the most part, like say vehicles, they're self-contained, they're just, local. Whereas like lanes can span the entire road. You can see multiple miles of lanes in your view, and they can fork and merge and cause all kinds of trouble in the modeling. They also have large uncertainty. Sometimes you might not be able to like view the lanes because they're occluded, or it's nighttime, only part of the lane is visible. And it's not just that. Sometimes even if everything is visible, even humans cannot agree on whether something that you're looking at is 2 lanes or 1 lane, for instance. So there's a ton of uncertainty in like what are lanes. And then it's not sufficient to just predict them as some kind of raster. It's very hard to use downstream then. So it's better to predict them as some kind of vector representation, like polylines, splines, polynomials, etc., to help with ease of use. And all of this needs to happen within tens of milliseconds in real time. Like I said, it's like a very difficult problem to predict lanes in real time in the real world. Nonetheless, we use state-of-the-art generative modeling techniques. In this case, we use autoregressive transformers, quite similar to, I would say, GPT, in terms of how we model the lanes. So we can predict you can tokenize the lanes and then predict them 1 token at a time. Unlike language, which is mostly linear, we have to predict the full graph structure. Hence, we come back, predict what is the forking point, what is the merging point, etc. And everything is done end to end using neural networks with little to no post processing required after this. Another important task for self-driving is obviously moving objects, vehicles, trucks, pedestrians, what have you. And it's not sufficient to just detect them. You need to have their full kinematic state, and also predict their shape information, their futures, etc. All of these models, the models that I described earlier, even the lanes one and objects one, are in some ways multimodal models, in the sense that they take in not just camera video streams, they also take in other inputs, such as, in this case, ego's own kinematics. So ego's velocity, acceleration, jerk, etc., all goes in. We also provide in the navigation instructions to the lanes to kind of guide us where to, like which lane to use, etc. So everything is done within the network. That's why I say it's like a modern machine learning stack, where instead of doing this in post-processing, we just try to combine everything and then do perception sort of end-to-end, so to speak. So here you can see predictions of these models. The lanes that you see here, the vehicles that you see here are all just predicted, again, by these networks without a lot of post-processing. There is no tracking or anything like that in the things that you're seeing here. So overall, I would say that's quite stable. The green spines that are coming out of these vehicles are just their forecasted future. It's kind of like a standard task at this point, I would say. But it all works quite nicely and in real time in the car. It doesn't have to stop with just perception too. Once we have all of these percepts, like lanes, occupancy, objects, and even a few more like traffic controls and other things, you can do the entire motion planning, also using just a network. I won't go into too many details on like how we do that, but essentially, it can just be thought of as like one more task instead of it being a separate thing. So how is all of this possible? And I think it's because we have built this sophisticated auto labeling pipeline that gives us data from the entire fleet. Millions of video clips across the entire world can be tapped. On the left side, what you're seeing is an example of multi-trip reconstruction, where we choose some location, multiple Tesla vehicles driving through the location, upload their video clips and other vehicle kinematic data to us. We bring everything together and reconstruct the entire 3D scene. So the polylines that you look, there is a cyan colored one. There's also a few other colored ones. Those are all different cars doing different trips through the world, and it's actually all very well aligned. Let me see if I can play it again. Yeah. The pink line and the cyan line that you see there, those are like different trips of different cars driving around, and everything is just aligned very nicely. And this multi-trip reconstruction has enabled us to, get all the lanes, road lines, everything directly from the fleet in the millions, anywhere on Earth, essentially. once you have this like base structure of trajectories, calibration from all these cameras, you can really do a lot of cool things to reconstruct the entire scene. I'm not sure if the video plays quite nicely, but in my own screen, it looks very smooth, where you can see the ground surface. It's reconstructed quite nicely. There's like no artifacts such as double vision or blurring. Things are like crisp, look like geometric, they are correct. This is a hybrid approach to NERV and general 3D reconstruction. Sometimes in NERV, even though the re-rendered visuals might look very nice, the underlying geometry might be very fuzzy and cloudy. So we have a hybrid approach, which works quite nicely. And you can see here, the barriers, the vehicles, even trucks, etc., are reconstructed pretty accurately. Once we have these reconstructions, we then run even more neural networks just offline to produce the labels that we want. Like I had mentioned earlier, for lanes, we need some kind of vector representation to make it very easy to use. So instead of just using a raster directly, take rasters, we have offline neural networks that run on top of it and then produce the vector representation that can be then used as labels for the online stack. Similar to the lanes, like once you have the lanes and the roads reconstructed, you can also auto-label traffic lights. Here you're seeing traffic lights auto-labeled by your system without any human inputs. And these are all like multi-view consistent. Let me try to play it again. Yeah, we can predict that